What's up, guys? Chris, VA Travels, here in downtown Fredericksburg, and today I'm going to be visiting the home of the mother of the father of the country. Yeah, visiting the Mary Washington House, probably Fredericksburg's most popular resident. You've got Mary Washington College, Mary Washington Hospital, and Fredericksburg was home to about half of the Washington family. As you know, George grew up just across the river at Ferry Farm. Of course, we have the Mary Washington House. Betty Washington, George's sister, lived over at Kenmore. Charles Washington, younger brother, lived over at what is now the Rising Sun Tavern. Yeah, and there's our house right there behind the trees. But as I walk up, let me show you this nice looking home. Nice pediment. A cool urn right there with the flame going. Ionic columns. Oh, cool little kind of eyebrow kind of dormer up there. And here it is. Original portion is on the left off of Charles Street, named after King Charles, the one that was beheaded during the English Civil War. Yeah, just a clapboard home. There's a couple plaques up here I want to look at. All right, so the Mary Washington House. Yeah, lived here from 72 until her death in 89. And then over here, okay, home of Mary, mother of Washington. Pretty cool door knock, that Federal Eagle. Transom window up there. And here are the hours. Monday through Saturday, 10 until 4. Sunday, 12 until 4. Ticket is $10. And you can buy a pass for $24. You can visit 3 sites: Mary's house, the Rising Sun Tavern, and the Hugh Mercer Apothecary. So it's a pretty good deal. And all right, something for kids. It looks like a Twilight history. And yeah, a few events. Okay, extensions down here. And let me just walk around, take a look at the side real quick before I go in for the tour. Oh, and I'll have to ask about this. Some sort of little cornerstone marker right here. I don't see anything written on it, but that looks pretty old. I don't see any others. I'll have to ask about that. And yeah, just take a look at the stone foundation. Oh, little hatch door right there. And the back is another attachment. That's where the gift shop sits now. But yeah, I'm getting a private tour by Kevin with the Washington Heritage Museums. So yeah, this should be a pretty good video. And then right next door, this building they're working on, the Betty Washington Inn quiet rooms. I have to look into this. This is going to be a B&B maybe? I don't know, but yeah, pretty cool. I'll have to check that out. Anyway, let me go ahead and take the tour.
Good day, my name is Kevin Anderson. I'm the manager of museum operations and interpretation here at Washington Heritage Museums. We own 5 properties. We're the stewards of 5 properties here in downtown Fredericksburg, and all 5 tie into the Washington family. Right now we're standing in the Mary Washington House. This is where Mary will spend the last 17 years of her life. She dies in the space that we're standing in on the 25th of August, 1789. An obituary from a local newspaper mentions she is 82 years old when she passes away from breast cancer here in this space. Another property that we have is the Hugh Mercer Apothecary. That was one of Mary's doctors. He will fight in the American Revolution, dies of his wounds he received at the Battle of Princeton in January of 1777. But he treated Mary as well as other members of the Washington family. Our third property, the Rising Sun Tavern, originally was built in the 1760s as the home of Charles Washington, George Washington's brother, Mary's son. Him and his family will move out the place will become a tavern. And we operate it today not as a drinking and eating establishment, but talk a little bit about Charles's life and how the place converted into a tavern and tavern life in the late 18th, early 19th century. A third property is our headquarters, our offices, the St. James House. James Mercer lived there. He was responsible for drawing up Mary's will. He in his own right is a judge, will later move to Richmond, where he continues to serve as a judge down in Richmond. And our last property, the Mary Washington Monument, the current monument constructed in 1894. It was the first monument in this country for women, by women, and it marks the general area of where Mary is buried. Unfortunately today, we don't know exactly where she's buried. And I would encourage you to come out, visit our museums. Our current hours are Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Sundays, 12 p.m. To 4 p.m. Visit our website, WashingtonHeritageMuseums.org, for an update on our calendar. If you're a teacher interested in school tours, hosting any kind of event, you can find all that information on there. If you look outside, if you've been to the Mary Washington House or seen pictures of it, it's quite large. And it was not this size when Mary was living here. The space we're in right now is the size of the home that Mary lived in. George buys this house for his mother, and by the spring of 1772, she's here. And I mentioned earlier, she does live the last 17 years of her life here. Some of the furnishings, the secretary here is a federal piece. It dates to after Mary's time. It's from about 1790 to 1800, and it belonged to the Lewis family. Mary's daughter, Betty, married into the Lewis family as well. And as we see it today, this is just one large room, but in Mary's time, it would have been 2 rooms, and above us would have been a half-story loft. And we do know George comes here multiple times and spends the night with his mother. And then the bedpost here, the bed itself, the post bed is pretty typical. The wood part, the frame is from the period. The furnishings are a smattering of items from throughout the different centuries. Our chair in front of the bed here, this is called a necessary chair. The majority of it is original, and you see the pot, and this would have been a bit more convenient way to use the restroom. Traditionally, a chamber pot would have sat on the floor, and that would have just been pushed under the bed. You see the cushion just to my left, and that would have been placed back on the chair and could have been used as you would just use a chair normally. On the wall here is a mirror that belonged to Mary Washington. She passes away, and about 1.5 years before she dies, she does write her will, and she mentions this as her best dressing glass. Now it has faded over time. It's tin with a thin layer of silver poured over it. Mary leaves this to her son George in the will when she passes away. So the top is a box. This is 2 separate pieces. The box would have held the family Bible, deeds, other important papers, the chest, blankets, perhaps some clothing. And these are the oldest pieces in the museum. They date to the 1600s. The utensils on the table, they are bone and steel, and pretty traditional examples of eating utensils from the time period. To the best of our knowledge, she's probably doing needlework and sewing as well. Mary struggles. You know, her story is relatable even today. She's widowed at 35 years old. She has 5 surviving children at the time of her husband's death. And one thing she's trying to do is keep her children in the gentry class. She does not remarry. And when she's keeping her children in the gentry class, one thing she'd be doing with her daughter Betty is teaching her how to sew, needlework, which was something a gentry woman would have had skills in. So the parlor we have just stepped into, this is oftentimes credited to George Washington as him constructing this parlor. And we know through dendrochronology that's just not the case. It is added 2 years after Mary dies. Her granddaughter, Bay Lewis Carter, and her husband Charles move in here and would use this space as a parlor. The chair here in front of me is a pretty interesting piece. It's made by a local craftsman named Robert Walker. And if you see the arms here terminate with these dog heads, not sure if there's any specific meaning behind that or not. Robert Walker is often credited with having a shop over in King George County, not that far to our east. But there's an argument to be made. His shop was the next port town down from Fredericksburg in Port Royal. And there's an argument to be made. It was actually here in Fredericksburg. But the consensus seems to be that it was over in King George County, not that far to our east. There's a myth that circulates closets were taxed during this time period, and there's absolutely no evidence to suggest any of that is true. The fan there is made of turkey feathers, and it's early 19th century or early 1800s. The clock works themselves, meaning the piece here, were made locally. You'll see the name on the dial there, Henry White here in Fredericksburg. This clock worked until very recently. It's called a 8-day clock. It would be wound. It takes about 8 days for the weights to drop down, and it would be wound again. It is in need of some repairs, but it's a magnificent piece with ties here to Fredericksburg. The case, we're not sure where it was made or who made it. But again, the clock works, the piece itself, the clock, made here, right here in town. And it dates to about 1810. So the corner cabinet here, this is an English piece. It dates to the second half of the 18th century. And the English, they attempt to replicate what the Chinese are doing. And this piece, although it's faded a little bit, it's a process called Japanning. And it was used to replicate what the Chinese were producing. But again, this piece is English and dates to the second half of the 18th century. It is a piece from the time period, and the Henry Ford Museum has Mary's original, which is very similar. The cornices, the mantle here, the chair rail, this is all original, dates to 1791. Who is responsible for this? We don't know. The pieces on top of the mantle there, they're called garnitures, and they are Chinese export porcelain, and usually displayed in odd numbers, which you can see we have here. Jars, 3 jars and 2 vases. Staircase is added after Mary dies. I probably should have mentioned in the other space, that's where the actual staircase would have been to go upstairs. Yeah, so the space here that you're looking at, this is part of the original house. The floorboards are original, the majority of them, the ones you're looking at right now, are original, pardon me, from 1759. George records multiple times about staying here with his mother. We assume this was the space he was sleeping in when he came here. The space you're looking at, this is a bedroom, and it sits above the parlor we were just in. And this was an addition. I mentioned Bay Lewis Carter, Mary's granddaughter, her husband Charles. They add this, and we think they're using it as their primary bed chamber. And again, this space is after Mary's time. The piece right there is a boot rack. The boots would be placed upside down in that, and the boots would be stored overnight. Yeah, so this one right here is likely at one point was a necessary chair as well. One reason you can tell that, the piece down at the bottom kind of hides where the bowl would sit down. So it's not currently one, but at some point it was used as one and converted to a regular chair. This is just a little display. In the case, there is a book that belonged to Mary, and there are some items related to the Mary Washington Monument when it was dedicated in 1894. That picture there was said to have been used by Mary when the Marquis de Lafayette stops by here in April of 1781. The Marquis de Lafayette, the French general, he will stop by here, and we know that based on a letter that he writes to George Washington. He tells George that he rode some miles out of his way to visit with his mother. We also have the copies of the wills of Mary and her husband, Augustine Washington. What you're looking at there, within the cross, the letter is a letter written by a Washington family member, and the wood within the cross is from George Washington's coffin. That right there is a copy of Augustine's will, and then the one to the left is a copy of Mary's. When Augustine dies, Mary and Augustine were married on the 6th of March, 1731. They go on to have 6 children, 5 survive into adulthood. Mary will be a 35-year-old widow, raising these 5 children in, at times, difficult circumstances, chiefly financial. So the part of the house we've just stepped into, this would have been Mary's backyard had she been alive. So this addition was added after her passing. Today we use it as a gift shop. We have quite a few books on George Washington, and if you're into ghosts, ghost books, and also other aspects of 18th century life, but it's mostly centered around George Washington. We have soaps and peanuts from right here in Virginia as well, and a small section of children's items as well. Completely forgot about the tea, a selection of teas. And also the floorboards here, these are the floorboards that were in the Mary Washington house. I encourage you to come out, pay us a visit, and walk on the floorboards that Mary and George would have actually walked on. So the garden here, George Washington mentions in a letter that he purchases this property and it had 2 1/2-acre lots. Our second half-acre would have been directly behind our property, would extend it out to Prince Edward Street, no longer part of our property. Today, with the help of our lead gardener, Ian, and his group of volunteers, this garden is slowly being restored to its 1960s appearance that was done by the Virginia Garden Club, and a colonial revival pattern. So what this looked like when Mary lived here, we don't know, but the sundial, the pedestal portion belonged to Mary. It's a quiet sandstone from a quarry just up the road we know today as Government Island. Dial itself purported to be stolen during the Battle of Fredericksburg. And again, this is a colonial revival garden, and we don't know exactly what this looked like when Mary was living here. Mary's kitchen was actually down at this end. It doesn't survive, well, part of it does, but it would have been down at this end. So what you're looking at now, this is an 1804 kitchen. So this kitchen was constructed after Mary Washington died, but this kitchen would have been very familiar to Mary. And again, it does date to 1804. We have some food here, not real obviously. Oysters would have been big in this part of Virginia, with the Rappahannock River just being several blocks away from us. Bread, a staple in the diet. And we believe there was an enslaved woman here, Old Bet. Likely would have been the cook here, perhaps help from Little Bet. And to speak to slavery a little bit, Mary Washington, when her father dies when she's 3 years old, she inherits 3 enslaved people from her father. And from that moment until the day she dies at 82, she will own enslaved people. At the time of her death, she mentions 6 enslaved people in her will: Old Bet, Little Bet, and Lydia, Tom, George, and Frederick. All 6 will be inherited by Mary's children. Oysters were popular. They initially started out, were largely considered a poor man's food, but George Washington would write in his diaries that he often had oysters in Williamsburg at one of the taverns down there, specifically Christiana Campbell's tavern. Another example we use about the relationship between Mary and George is courtesy of George Washington Parke Custis. He is a distant cousin, a step-grandson to George Washington. He writes that one of George's cousins wrote of Mary that of the mother, I was 10 times more afraid than my own parents. And a lot of historians and authors cut that quote right there. But the quote goes on to say, but she awed me with her kindness, and because she was truly kind. So the question is why half of the quote is used and the other half is left. So again, I can't reiterate enough that we don't really know enough about George's relationship with his mother, but we do know enough to push back on the narrative that it was a strained relationship. The reality is we just don't know for certain.
Wow, yeah, that was an extensive tour. All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna take a walk around the gardens. Wow, I wonder how far back this tree goes. That's a thick trunk. Over here's an oak leaf hydrangea. My phone is telling me this is a hackberry tree. Wow. I think I'm gonna walk over and take a closer look at that sundial. The original was stolen during the Battle of Fredericksburg. Okay, so you see an old chimney was on this thing. This is an old furnace house, used as a gardening shed today. So it's another more modern building. Jessamine, Carolina yellow. right, well, if you come visit, you've got restrooms over here. All right, so just looks like a storm cellar down there. Mary Washington's beloved garden. Pretty cool. Pretty lush garden. All right, that's it. Great tour, a lot of information, and that's going to wrap it up for Mary Washington's house. As always, guys, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.